Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with an assembly video for one of our die sets. This is die number 1309, Rainbow Add-ons, designed to fit die 1308 Arch Pop-Up, and you can check out all of our products at karenburniston.com. This die set will add on the pieces that are needed to style the Arch Pop-Up as a rainbow. So taking a look here at the packaging card, you can see those dies used in combination together. There are two arched pieces in the set, and one of them is the rainbow stripe. So that one will cut 6 stripes at one time. And then there is this piece, which is actually a slightly smaller version of the arch with a stitched edge. And that works wonderfully on the back of the arch to cover up the slot. So when you're trying to style it as a rainbow, the back of the arch looks nice as well. And then the other pieces in the set are a 2-part sun, 2 big clouds, and 2 small clouds. And all of those clouds have stitched edging. For rainbow stripes, you have options. So the die is going to cut the 6 stripes all at one time, and they are slightly connected out on the outside edges. And that way, if you do want to just keep it as a single piece and maybe color in all those stripes with your markers, you can do that. And if you are going to color in the stripes with markers, what you may find is it's difficult to stay within the stripe with your marker. And so my suggestion is just grab a mask. So for me, that's going to be Post-it notes. You could just use anything that you had that you can slide there underneath that stripe to isolate it from the others. And then that's going to make it very easy to color each stripe. And then you can just keep moving those Post-it notes as you go down the rainbow, changing the color as you go. Now I am using markers for this technique, but you could certainly switch out and just use ink. If you're isolating the stripe, you can go in with your inks and a sponge or a blending brush and just color all of those stripes. And then if you are going to make a pop-up rainbow, you will need 2 of the rainbow pieces. Okay, and then those would just glue to the arch pieces out of the arch pop-up. But another option is to do this out of colored cardstock. So for this one, you would take the die and you need to choose 6 colors. And then because we need 2 of them, I have to cut each color twice with that die. And then I think the easiest way to assemble the rainbow is to do it right on the arch pieces themselves. So that's how I'm going to get something like this. I'm going to assemble those stripes right onto the arch pieces. And since basically it's going to cover them, if I want to, I can use double-sided adhesive tape on the front of the cardstock before die cutting. The double-sided tape, that's completely optional. You could absolutely just cut the arch pieces out of cardstock and then just glue the rainbow stripes to it. But I wanted to show this option with the tape. So, okay, now what I have is I basically have 2 sticky arch pieces. And what I want to do is I want to grab the backing sheet from the tabs, the ones that are going to attach the arch to the card, and just snip those and put those back on again because I don't want to be dealing with those sticky tabs until I'm ready to attach it to the card. Okay, but then the backing sheet can come off of the rest of the arch piece, and that goes for both pieces. I can take off that backing sheet, and then it is the tapered tab out on the end of one of the pieces that is going to connect those 2 arch pieces together. And since I use the tape, that tapered tab is already sticky. So I can just use that tape to connect the 2 halves of the arch together. Okay, now I can start constructing my rainbow on that sticky arch. So I just have to pick a color to be the first stripe. Now you can use scissors to snip the ends if you want to, although it is such a small connection point that you can absolutely just tear the stripes apart with your fingers. So the first stripe is going to go all the way to the top. So these stripes will completely cover that sticky arch. But here for my second color, I need to get rid of the first stripe because I'm going down one now, and then grab the second stripe. And then I'm just going to butt that right up to the first one, and then all I have to do is just carry on doing my stripes. And for this rainbow, I chose pastel colors. So, you certainly don't have to do traditional rainbow colors as you construct a rainbow. You can just do them in whatever colors you want. Okay, and then 6 stripes all butted next to each other will completely cover that arch. Now I just need to repeat that process with the other rainbow stripes on the other side of the arch. So just doing the same color order, going through and just grabbing the stripe as I go down with each of the colors. All right, so there is my completed rainbow what's going to happen is these tabs are going to fold under and they are going to attach that rainbow to the card. But before I do that, let's talk about all of those leftover stripes that I have. My suggestion is just make 5 more rainbows. And for each rainbow, you're going to change which color is on top, but just keep the same order. So for this one, I started with pink. So the next one, I will start with yellow. So I need to find the largest yellow stripe, and then I'm going to keep the same color order. So the next color would be purple, then green, then blue, then that kind of fuchsia pink, and then back to the light pink again. So all I'm doing is stepping a color down each time. For constructing the rainbow as a base, I'm still going to use the pieces out of the arch pop-up. So I'm going to use glue this time instead of tape. Use the tapered tab to connect the 2 arch pieces together. I've used a very lightweight white cardstock as the base. And then now I'm just going to start using my glue to add the stripes. So you can use that tape, you can use glue, doesn't matter. I think it's easiest to add the glue to the arch and then, put the stripe into the glue, but you could certainly put the glue on the back of the stripe. It doesn't matter because you're getting complete coverage, meaning that the entire stripe is going to be attached to the arch piece. My favorite glue is LINECO Neutral pH Adhesive, and I have that in my fine tip bottle. Then I just repeat that on the other side. So this is a great activity, for a podcast, an audiobook. Maybe you're going to catch up on something on TV and just sit there and make your 6 rainbows. But the reason I like to make all of the rainbows at once, even if I'm not going to be using them all on one card, is because now I have the stripe order. So I don't have to look at this big pile of leftover stripes and figure out which ones are missing. Like, in other words, which ones do I have the big stripe for? Which one do I have the number 2 stripe for? I just have to look at my last rainbow and step down 1 stripe color. And then I will know that I have all of the stripes to line up to make 6 perfect rainbows. Okay, I'm going to pick one of my rainbows to be my pop-up rainbow. And remember, I was talking about how the back of the rainbow is kind of visible as you open the card. And so right now the back of the rainbow has some slots and a tab. And if I want to pretty that up, I can use that smaller piece, that smaller arch piece, to cover the back of the rainbow. And since I have 6 of them, and I'm not going to need all 6 of those rainbows, I'm going to use one of my leftover rainbows to cut that piece out for the back of the rainbow. And that way, when I open it, instead of it being a solid color behind there, it will actually be rainbow striped. And because that arch piece was designed to go on the back of the pop-up arch, that's why it's a little bit smaller. So that way it's not going to bunch up in the folds. So back behind the arch, you've got some folds there, folds for the base tabs, folds in the center of the rainbow. You don't want that decorator piece to be crammed up into those folds. So that's why that piece is designed a little bit smaller. And as I glue these on, you can see that there is actually 4 layers here. So that's why I'm saying use that really lightweight cardstock for the arch pieces themselves. Okay, there we have it. One cool pop-up rainbow, and it even has rainbow stripes on the back. You choose your card size, and I am doing a standard A2. So I started with a piece of cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5, scored it in the middle for folding. And then to that, I just went stash diving. I found a pretty piece of pattern paper, and I cut panels to fit the inside of the card, and then just went ahead and added a panel to the front of the card and the back of the card as well. To install the rainbow, I want to measure 2 inches off the center fold. So that is kind of the sweet spot for installing the arch. You can certainly mess around with that and try different distances, but I really love a 2-inch offset for this arch. Okay, peeling up the liner on my tab, what I want to do is I want to attach that tab so that the corner is right on my 2-inch mark and the top of the tab is horizontal. Okay, so I can do that by just aligning it with the top of the card. But in my case, I've decided to come down into the card a little bit, but then it's sort of my responsibility to make sure that it stays straight. Then I'm going to fold it in half, peel up the liner on the other tab, and then keeping that in the flat position, I'm going to close the card and pick up the other tab. And that is all there is to it. That is installing the arch inside the card. So really super easy assembly. You can see it's going to pop up and pop down and make a nice pleasing arch. The base tabs that connect the arch to the card are pretty much hidden behind the rainbow, but if you want to disguise them even further, you can do that by just cutting the tab section using the die out of your leftover pattern paper. And then just take scissors, isolate just the tab section, and then glue it on over the top of those base tabs. And that will disguise them even further where they mostly just disappear. There is a two-part sun that comes included in the set, so the sun itself and then a stitched circle for the center. Now choosing a spot for the sun very much depends on your card size, so I'm just going to use some temporary tape so that I can just test that location and make sure that in the closed position it stays within the card. So just by using that temporary tape I can move that around, figure out a spot where I can have it overlap the rainbow and kind of stick out into the air a little bit, but still have it be hidden by the card when the card is closed. Then once I have a good location for my sun, I can make that permanent with some glue and then remove my temporary tape. You can create some pretty cool dimensional effects in the center of the rainbow by attaching items to extend past that fold in both directions. So the sun is attached so that it kind of extends out to the right, and then a cloud that extends out towards the left. And then there are also those larger clouds in the set, and those work great at the base of the rainbow. You might also explore adding a cloud to the spokes of the sun, and that will give it that look like it's up in the sky. And you just have to choose a spot that will stay in the card when the card is closed. So with an A2 size card, you have to be a little careful about where you place embellishments. If you step up to maybe a 5x7 card, you have, a little bit more luxury in where you put items, as well as maybe room for a double rainbow. I'll be using the stitched cloud from our new curved edges to create some big, large, fluffy clouds to fill in a lot of that space in the background of my card. So all I'm going to do is just take some white cardstock, use the die on one side, then flip the die around and use it on the other side, and that will give me that big, fluffy cloud. And I can use my scissors to kind of clean up the connection between the two cuts. And now I have that cool big fluffy cloud for one side of the card, and then I'm just going to repeat that exact same process to make a second one for the other side of the card. I have a flat interior edge to each of those clouds, and now I can just adjust that edge if I want to change the angle that the clouds sit in the card. And I'm just going to do that with my scissors. So once I've kind of figured out the angle that I want, then I can just create a new flat edge for that cloud to change the angle. If you're looking for greetings to go with those pop-up rainbows, I suggest our Rainbow Greetings Clear Stamp set, because there's all sorts of little phrases that'll work great for your pop-up rainbows. Now I am choosing Wishing You Sunshine and Rainbows. I tested that stamp first on a piece of scratch cardstock, and now I've stamped it onto my cloud. I'll finish out the interior of this card by sprinkling in several of the small clouds. And what I'm going to do is just leave myself a big area of white on the right cloud, and that will be the place that I'll sign the card. I made another big cloud, and I'm stamping it with Sending a Smile. So that will be for the front of the card. And then because I have all of those leftover rainbows, I can actually just use one on the front of the card. So I'm gluing the rainbow down. I'm just not pressing it all the way to the edge of the card so that I can get my scissors underneath there and then trim the ends to match the edge of the pattern paper. And then my big Sending a Smile cloud will just glue over the top. And then the last thing to do is just sprinkle in some additional small clouds on the front of the card. So here is my finished card. It is A2 sized, so I just need a regular A2 size envelope for mailing. And because I made 6 rainbows but only used 3 of them, I can repeat this exact card. I can just copy myself and get a second card done right away. Rainbows can be very good for pet sympathy cards. So if you haven't heard of the Rainbow Bridge, here is the story. You can hit pause and read it. This was a card that was actually sent to us recently when we had to say goodbye to our sweet Katie. She lived a long and happy life, 16.5 years, but I miss her every day. So to use the rainbow as a pet sympathy card, I will use a couple of the greetings off of the Rainbow Greetings Clear Stamp sets, and then I'm going to add some pieces in from the Doghouse Tiny House add-ons. But then other than that, I'm just going to copy the first card I made and use the leftover rainbows. So I switched to a different pattern paper and added in a couple of the paw prints, but other than that, I just pretty much copied the other card. So it says, "Sorry for your loss" on the front, and then "Forever loved, forever missed, waiting at the Rainbow Bridge." So my 6 rainbows made 2 cards because I chose to use rainbow pieces on the back of the arch as well. Now, if I switched out and used either a solid color or maybe even a pattern paper on the back of the arch, then I'd have 2 additional rainbows for a 3rd card. So you really can stretch the work that you're doing on creating the rainbows into multiple cards. For the card that's on the packaging for the Rainbow Add-ons, I actually used a couple of my leftover rainbows to die cut a label for the front of the card. So you can also just use those leftover rainbows as just kind of background elements. For this card, I did use those solid pieces on the back of the arch, so that did stretch my leftover rainbows. I love to end assembly videos by looking at some cards made by our very talented design team. Our cat and dog die set can be a good one for those Rainbow Bridge Sympathy cards. So here is a card by Lois. I particularly like how she used the pattern paper on the lower half of the card's interior. That really just balances the rainbow nicely. Here's a card by Sue Small Kreider showing how you can use those rainbows flat on the fronts of cards as well as on the arch on the inside. So really cute little slimline card here with some frogs and rainbows. Lois has a slimline card where she's used the rainbow on the front of the card as part of her cover plate for this whirly wheel card. So as you spin the wheel, the unicorn comes up and leaps across the card. And if you do like unicorns with your rainbows, then I suggest the leaping animals and the birthday magic clear stamps. Here's a cute card by Frances Byrne where she's combined that pop-up rainbow with that leaping unicorn. For this card, Nikki is using the rainbows flat across the bottom half of the card, and then she still used the arch but made a rainbow out of balloons, and then she added in those unicorns as well. Here's a delightful good luck card by Jen Webster with a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Here's a Wizard of Oz themed card by Sandy Diller, and notice that she has used the lower extra platforms on the arch in front of the rainbow so that she can have extra dimension with clouds. With those bigger cards, you can put additional rainbows. So here is a double rainbow card by Sue Small Kreider. The Rainbow Add-ons die set, along with the foundation die arch pop-up, are both available at KarenBurniston.com, as well as at a lot of your favorite local and online retailers. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can purchase these dies as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.